I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
I'm 37?
I'll have what she's having.
Well done! Well done!
Well, hello everybody.
Hi,
Hello, hello, hello. How are you, Bruno?
I'm doing fine, and you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, the weather today is like trash, really
Yeah,
awful. But you know what? Whatever.
a little
gotta
under
have
the
those
weather, as they say.
You? I mean, I am as well. I am. I'm not gonna lie. I am. But I feel like you are too. Are you good?
Yeah, it's just life, isn't it? It's just life.
Well, let's not get depressed.
Let's
Like,
talk
come
about
on.
life through
I feel
movies.
like our last episode ended up in a bit of a more sad note, and it's like we swear we don't want to be like sad here, okay? But you know, sometimes life throws at you stuff and you just,
You have to deal with it.
yeah, you have to deal with it. But
Take
that's why
responsibility, as they say, isn't
taking, yeah, that's the definition of being an adult, you know, just you don't want to, but you have to take responsibility. I was thinking, you know what? Whenever I'm just a bit down, watching a movie seems like such a comfort thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But like not every movie. Like I don't want to watch comedy, you know, sometimes. I feel like
No, yeah.
we humans have such a masochist factor in us, you know, tendency. Whenever we are a bit down or it's a rainy day like today, or you know, you don't even know why you're down, but it's like it's raining outside and it just feels right for you not to be smiling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you just go and listen to sad songs
Yep.
and listen to
Pearl
um
Jam.
Pearl Jam. Okay, not really my choice of being sad, but to each their own. Yeah, sure. I feel like I feel like Radiohead would be better for
Oh,
that. But
yeah. It's a good band. Yeah, yeah. It's an awesome band.
what in terms of movies? Like, would you choose to watch like a movie that made you weep, like Titanic? I
I,
wouldn't, but like because
no.
it's too long. I was like,
Yeah.
up until the moment that I'm gonna cry, I'm already okay. So don't really care about those
I
movies.
actually
But
never cried in the film or because of a film.
that's a lie. That's not true.
Yeah,
Come
it's true.
on.
I felt like sadness and stuff. The only time that I remember having tears in my eyes was about this film. It's an 80s film called Electric Dreams. It's a kind of a romantic sci-fi film also, because basically the film is like you have this architect and he's trying to develop like this new type of brick that is like anti-earthquake and stuff like that. And he has this brand new computer and he's just moved into this apartment block, and by some weird accident he spills like drink in his computer, and basically his computer comes to life. All of a sudden this computer is like as what we call today an AI, but at that time would be like something like the computer is possessed or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So the guy starts seeing like a neighbor, like this cute girl and everything, and they start hanging out. And this computer all of a sudden has the ability to control lighting and control all that.
Wait.
Um,
It sounds familiar. That plot is sounding very familiar. But yeah, continue.
it's actually it was a very famous film in the 80s. He has a great song that you can still hear in the radio coming by a few times. It's called
Okay.
Electric Dreams. Kind of this is in the beginning of the internet in the United States, but the rest of the world doesn't have internet yet. So this computer actually falls in love with this guy's girlfriend, and they start like having a little bit of a feud between them. It's really weird. And in the end of it, the computer realizes that he's just a computer, he can't do anything. So the computer actually sacrifices himself. Not the computer itself, but like that AI, that character, sacrifices himself so that everything goes back to normal. And
Mm-hmm.
he finished like this guy's plans for that kind of break, and he all of a sudden takes control of all the radios, like in the States, and all of a sudden everyone is hearing the same music, which is that song Electric Dreams. And I kind of had a bit of tears in my eyes because of the sacrifice that the computer does.
Okay.
That was the only time that I remember having
Okay,
immediate
that sounds a
tears.
bit like the movie Her. You
Not,
know, like now,
yeah,
like for those who don't know or our first time listeners, our first episode was on the movie Her by Spike Jonze, and it was. I mean, I guess a lot of people have seen Her, the movie
yeah,
with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, but it's a little bit similar to that movie, isn't
yeah.
it?
But
About
don't
just a
remember that
human
Electric Dreams
falling in love.
was
Yeah.
made like 30 years before
Yeah,
her.
yeah, I
So
know. That's what I think it's great. It's how it was it has such a difference in periods of time, you know, when they were made.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, probably Spike Jonze saw that film because it was a very popular film in the 80s. And the idea got stuck like in his subconsciousness and stuff like. But in the 80s, that film didn't make a lot of sense because the discussion of AI, apart from books or Asimov books and Philip K. Dick and all that,
But at the
there
same
was no
time,
discussion of AI.
there was happening like an evolution in technology, like we saw in Videodrome, for
Oh
instance.
yeah.
You know, with the TV screens
Mhm.
and so computers, all of that. So although it's not the same as it is today, it also had a contemporary discourse. But I feel like with Her, the contemporary discourse is a lot more related to AI
Oh yeah.
and the more like this close emotions and close relationships we develop with our devices, which I think it's interesting to see how coming from different time periods, there are still very similar themes, which just shows that we might live still in the same age where we are still trying to understand the impact that technology and new devices can have on
Oh
our
yeah.
life. Yeah, and
But
movies are still exploring that.
oh yeah, but it's like I remember when we were doing Her, you were quite amused by the fact that in the 50s there were sci-fi films. And
In the 50s,
yeah.
oh yeah, I
And
was like,
yeah.
I thought people were just shooting in the West
No, there were
and
sci-fi films.
and like
But it's like you have one
melodrama
of
was happening
oh
and
no,
yeah,
you have one of the biggest sci-fi films at the time called Forbidden Planet with Leslie Nielsen. And
I never
Forbidden
heard of
Planet is
it.
actually based on The Tempest by Shakespeare. There's a lot of elements.
Oh, I know Tempest, like
Yeah.
I've studied that play. Um,
There's a lot of
well,
elements in that film that comes
really?
straight from The Tempest. Yeah, we should do an episode on it so that you can see what a 56 sci-fi film looks like. If you
I
haven't
actually
seen
really
it,
like The Tempest as because of the colonial discourse that it has.
yeah.
So I'm like now thinking about the whole idea of how sci-fi can come into it because of like the new world,
Yeah, it
maybe.
is Forbidden Planet is passed in a new world, so
Yeah, okay,
it is in
maybe
a
it's
new world.
yeah.
So, but it is like it is an awesome film. But if you haven't seen it, even for our listeners, check out Electric Dreams. But
Like,
going back to your question, it depends. It depends on my mood. Sometimes I need to see something very artsy. Sometimes I feel for like something that's very heavy. But sometimes I watch romantic comedies and eat ice cream. Sometimes I'm in that mood. Just like to have something that's very light.
you know, one of the this is gonna be such a funny moment to share, but like I think about it a lot. Like there was one time that I was having a really tough day, you know,
Yeah.
and I couldn't do anything, you know. I was so emotional and I just lay down, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I turned on the TV. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to watch anything, but I feel like I need to have my eyes on something that is, otherwise my mind will like start spiraling and I don't want that. So I just start to watch a movie. And I watched that movie from the beginning to end, and it was Rampage, I think,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
with the Dwayne
Mm-hmm.
Johnson.
Yeah.
And that movie, I have like this connection with this movie now, and it's so funny because it's like every time like this movie is, I don't know, I see something about this movie, or is going on TV or something like that. I am always like, I have a connection with this movie. This
Yeah.
movie, I watched it in a very bad shape, but this movie made me feel so much better. It's so funny because it was random. I did not choose the movie. It was just It happened
it
that it
was
was,
there.
yeah, it was there. It happened that it was there. And yeah, it's so funny. Like an albino giant gorilla helped me go through a bad time. I loved it. So yeah. But I am a weeper. I am a weeper, so I do cry very easily at movies. Like I don't care which genre, my emotions are very flexible, okay? I can cry at everything, okay? But you know what, guys? Do you cry at movies? Honestly, this is such a fun and interesting question to ask to people. Like, do you feel connected to movies? Do you get emotional watching them? And does it have to be a sad movie or can it be a comedy? Like, what is the movie that actually made you cry so much that it's like stuck into your memory and you will not watch this movie ever again because you know how emotional you get? This is the question, okay? You can contact us via email or via Instagram or even on our coffee page, You can buy us a coffee if you enjoy like our episodes. Super fun, super chill, super like if you don't want to, that's also fine. I thought we might be friends, but
Yeah.
Um, no, but like for real, contact us, tell us, answer me like what movie made you cry, and maybe if we find it interesting enough, we'll feature it in an episode. Yeah.
Kind of never cried in a film. I felt for the films or I felt the emotions of the films, but I never really
You'd
had
never
that.
react to them, right?
I react to the films. One of the coolest reactions it's not me, it's from my son. Like we went to see like the third, I think it was the third or the fourth Star Trek film, the new ones they did. And there's a piece of the film where they're fighting this AI army, like it's called the Swarm. And they find out that in order to disrupt the communications, they have to put music, like they have to emit a certain frequency and they have to put music. And it's quite funny because the music they choose, it's Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. So they are approaching the swamp for this last big battle, and the music comes up, and it's like it's a big music with rock. It's a mixture of rap and punk and stuff. And all of a sudden, my son gets up. He was a kid. He had like 10, 11, something like that. And he gets up and he starts dancing in the theater because like you have all the song coming up and all the destruction happening
And your son just like
and he
started
just got up
dancing.
and he just started dancing, started like dancing to the song and everything. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Oh wow.
And
No,
I
I love
was
the free
like,
I love the free spirit.
yeah, I
I
was
love
like,
it.
oh my God, this film works.
You see, he reacted to the movie. Like
Oh
also
yeah,
that's also a reaction to it for sure.
yeah. He had some good reactions in some films. That you once had like a part of the theater laughing because he loves Godzilla, and we went to see Godzilla, and he was about 6 years old when we went to see Godzilla,
Oh,
the
okay. I thought it
2014
was like
film.
the latest one.
Oh, we went to see that one also, but
Yeah, it's like a tradition for you to go and watch Godzilla
oh
together.
yeah, he loves
All the
Godzilla.
movies. That's
And
cool.
but, like he was 6 years, so he couldn't read subtitles because in Portugal everything is subtitled and all that, nothing is doubled. And I was like explaining to him what was happening, what the characters were saying, not that there was a lot of lines there. But in the end of the film, Godzilla, like after defeating the monsters, Godzilla just like faints, like just crashes, and he stays there for like the entire night. And you
Yeah.
have all this like coverage, like news coverage, like saying like King of the Monsters, is he dead? Because they couldn't figure out if the Godzilla was dead or not. And all of a
Just
sudden,
resting. He's just resting his head a
but
bit.
you have that uncertainty. You don't really know because you know that it's not Godzilla is not going to die anyway. But it's the way it works. Like because he was just a 6 year old. Like Godzilla was like this big hero for him, and he's there and he's watching the film. He's not saying anything. He's like really shocked with it. And all of a sudden he says like Godzilla can't die. He's the king of monsters, and everyone around us started laughing.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so pure. Like,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
Love
it
it.
was
No,
so
but
cool.
this is one of the things that I feel like are so important in movie theaters, I still like to go to movie theaters to watch, movies because the experience is so much different. And the streaming services are really beneficial in a lot of ways, but they really take out the whole collective experience of watching a movie with so many people, and you experience that together. And I went and watched a comedy movie not long ago, like a rom-com, and I know for sure that I would have like hated the movie if I watched it on a streaming service. Like if I watch it home, I wouldn't like it at all. I
Yeah,
I think I would have even cringed a bit. But I loved the experience of watching it in a movie theater. I laughed so much. And there are parts that I didn't even like necessarily find funny on my own. It was just because other people were laughing, my friends were laughing, and I just felt that energy, and it
yeah,
was contagious, and you just have a good time with everyone. And at the end of it, when everyone is like standing up and going home, leaving the
yeah,
theater, it's so fun to watch, like make that small eye contact of like we had this experience together,
yeah.
we don't know each other. Like I haven't seen a movie theater being full in quite a long time, except for Barbie. I went and watched it on the
Mm-hmm.
movie theater, and it was like full. I was by myself. On my left side was a group of friends, and on my right side was like a mom and her daughter. I think like I just felt very connected to these people that I don't know. I don't know them. I don't remember their faces, but I watched Barbie with them, and we experienced that movie together. It was great. Support your local movie theater, okay?
I
Don't
love going
be.
to movie theaters. It's like kind of an experience, isn't it? It's like the entire experience. Like you go there and you chill. Like one of the things I hate with multiplexes is the fact that people before the pandemic, but they're coming back now. They went to have like these family dinners during the movie. Like everyone would buy these like popcorns and nachos and all that. They would go like to see the film and be munching and stuff. And I like to see the film like really quiet, like because there are elements to the sound. Like the people have worked a lot in sound for these films and to put like little details in the sounds. And these people are like munching away
Okay.
nachos.
Like I am someone who likes to eat during like a movie watch. I love it. I love like snacking away.
Yeah, but even if you
But
when
you
you are
are right.
chewing,
Yeah.
you are like you chewing because your brain starts listening to your mouth working. So there's a lot of details that you don't pick up. I always like when I go to the cinemas and I see these families with the nachos, I'm like, oh God, it's gonna be awful.
Well, second question, guys. Like, are you someone who eats during a movie watch, or like
Yeah.
you are like Bruno, it's a no-go?
For me it's a
Tell us.
no-go. It's like, oh, I haven't seen also a cinema like a theater full for a long, long time.
Like I said, last time I saw it was when Barbie was on. And the most and just adding to that, it was not just going to see the movie, it was everyone going, like not everyone, but like a lot of people going dressed up with something pink and
Yeah.
like doing the most. And I was too, like I was all pink. I was like with a pink dress, I was with pink makeup,
Going
I
through the
was
motions.
yeah, I was like, I'm going pink. And it was so fun. And it was fun, like seeing other people also making the effort to come dressed up. And I don't know, I feel like it was a cultural moment for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
In terms really of like going back to the theater, because this is like a crisis that we are in,
Mm,
the fact that streaming services are like taking over and people are going less and less to cinema. And it's important to keep on going because that's a way of like supporting the whole production of that movie. We have been talking for quite a long time about stuff, but not the movie that we are going to discuss
yeah,
today.
this is becoming like a thing in the last episodes, isn't it?
I'm
This
not gonna lie, I'm not really excited to talk about it, but
But the
it was
funny
my
thing
choice.
is,
It was my choice.
yeah, I know, but the thing is, you're going on and on and on about theaters and going to the film theater, but this is actually is a film that even back in his day, you wouldn't see much in the film theaters, especially in those very specific art film theaters and like neighborhood film theaters, like
Yeah.
conventional or commercial film theaters, you wouldn't see this film.
Yeah. Really? I mean, I don't know. Like I wasn't born.
Yeah,
Uh,
because
but
it's a very artsy film. So you wouldn't
okay.
see these type of films in like in a commercial theater. Like if you had like a neighborhood thing or like something that belonged to the government that actually makes a bet in these type of films and shows other films like more European films or like independent films, because you don't really see much independent production in movie theaters.
Yeah, just okay, so guys, like this is very confusing, but I mean, if you read the bio, like the description, you know what movie we're talking about today. But, just because we need to introduce the movie, we are talking about Night on Earth
Jim Jarmusch, yeah.
by Jim Jarmusch, exactly. It's a 90s movie, and I've never watched it. I thought it was interesting to watch, so I chose it. It's my choice this week. And I'm so sad that I didn't like it because it's interesting. Like I can see the potential of me liking it, like knowing myself. I was like, I'm gonna like this. This is fun. It's like a bunch of different stories from different cities
All
in a
happening at
cab ride.
once.
Yeah, all happening at once, but like in a cab ride, and I was just like, this sounds so it's so indie and so fun. Like I think I'm gonna like it a lot, and so human as well. And it was. I'm not gonna deny it, but I was a bit bored by like the half. I mean, don't crucify me. I'm just saying it's. I was a bit. mm. But you like it, right? Like you love Jim Jarmusch,
I love
right?
Jim Jarmusch because we kind of have the same references. I always say this regarding to every type of art. You need to know a bit of the background of the artist in fully to understand their work and where they're coming from, even with academia. If I have to read a book for like a something, for like an essay or something, one of the things that I do, I go and find out who this guy is. How was his life? Where was he born? How did he die? What happened during his life? What if I can
Oh, you do
find
the
out?
most. You do the most.
Oh yeah,
Like, wow.
because even scientifically, if when you write through your own backstory. So this is something that's got stuck with me since film school. Like everything that you write comes from yourself. It's that simple.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting
So,
point. I can see that
oh
being
yeah.
something very relevant for sure.
And sometimes when you go in and you have to read all these powerhouse philosophers and all that, and you go and understand their life, you'll be like, oh, this makes sense now. It makes sense that he has this view of the world, and you'll be like,
Okay.
okay, he helps you to understand it. So Jim Jarmusch has a particularity in his life where by the age of 15, he already was gray, like his entire hair went gray by the age of
By
15.
the age of, yeah, that's a phenomenon for some people. I mean, I
So,
think his look is very iconic, but
yeah,
by the age of 15, that's
yeah.
crazy. You're
No, it
still like in
is.
school,
Yeah, but
and
yes, but what
like,
this actually does to you is actually you become an outsider in your own society. Like you grow up with these people, but all of a sudden you're the weirdo because you're 15, 16 years old and you're gray there. It's like you're a weirdo. So yes, said this
yeah, but like you don't relate to old people because you're still a child
but you don't relate to the people of your age because you don't look
because
like
you're
them.
gray.
And
Oh
this and
my,
this is something that
that's
he has said in some interviews. Like he always said that I felt like an immigrant, like in my own hometown, but I felt like the outsider because he was the outsider, which is good because all of a
me
sudden,
whenever I travel to my home country.
yeah, all of a sudden, if you go and read about like the writers that inspired them and everything, you find names like William S. Burroughs, Jack Kerouac, which were outsiders of
Yeah,
their own also. And I love William S. Burroughs. I think he's a tremendous, tremendous writer. It's not easy to read because he writes in a stream of consciousness, but he's a tremendous, tremendous writer. what this does, like being an outsider, is like you have a different perspective of the world. You see things a little bit different. You see beauty where beauty doesn't necessarily exist for other people. And Jim Jarmusch is a bit like that. One of the things that I found really interesting is this 5 cities: LA, New York, Paris, Rome,
Paris.
and Helsinki.
Yeah.
And the establishing shots that he uses, like showing the city and everything, you could almost defend that you are seeing the same exact city all over again throughout this. The way he shows Rome, the way he shows Paris, the way he shows Helsinki, it's like it doesn't create such a contrast between with New York and Los Angeles. It's really beautiful.
You think so? Because honestly, I felt like I couldn't identify. I mean, I feel like New York is pretty standard. I mean, you can't really.
But I mean the establishing shots, not then the sequence, but because when it starts, you have the establishing shots like the empty streets, the buildings, the graffitis, the empty,
Oh,
like
okay.
all
Mm-hmm.
of them, like all of them, if you put them all together and you tell someone this is the same city but different neighborhoods, people would believe it because he finds like similarities where they shouldn't be.
I wouldn't say Helsinki would fall into that because it was very snowy.
If you see like New York with snow, it's very, very similar to it. This is the thing with Jim Jarmusch films. You'll see this in a lot of his films, especially like if you see like I think it's cigarettes and alcohol. You can say that the film is not a film because it doesn't have like a story, like a narrative. He has a main idea, and then what you see is 5 sketches. It's
Yeah,
like a
this
sketch
is
film.
yeah, that's Night on Earth. Like
Yeah.
I would define it like that. It's a concept, you know. It's an idea, and this is going to be translated through 5 stories, 5 narratives, but they all are integrated into the same plot in itself, like it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same
But
idea, the same because he wrote the film like in 8 days. He wanted to do something really quick, which sometimes films like this comes up that they seem weird at first. It's nice to see like those 5 stories. The LA story, it's related to cinema. It's a bit of a cheese out, but like the Italian story, like this is the thing with Robert
the
Benigni.
Italian story was so weird.
Yeah.
It was so weird. Like, come on, what do you mean? I mean, we're gonna spoil it. We sometimes try not to spoil like the end of the movie, like we did with I don't know, Bunny and the Bull, for instance. But I feel like in this one we can't really do that. This
That's
is
not really
not.
a big twist in its
Yeah, there's
story.
no twist, but like in the Italian story, like the priest dies,
Yeah.
okay,
He has
and
an
the
heart
priest
attack,
dies.
but you can see him having the heart attacks throughout the entire story, and he's
Throughout the
trying.
entire ride,
Yeah,
and then the guy who is like riding the cab, like the taxi driver, is like, Padre, Padre. He's like, oh my God, why aren't you answering? And
and when he has like his
then
pills, he has a pill to save his life, like in his hands, but he
he
goes over
drops
a
it.
bump.
Yeah,
He goes over a bump, and the pills he drops it, and he'll be like, "Oh, this guy's gonna die." But it's like Robert
uh,
Benigni is such a powerhouse that he steals the film. That's
true.
the thing.
True,
He
but
steals the
I
film.
felt like the funniest part. It's not like he died and the guy is like, Padre, wake up,
Yeah.
but it's how he takes the man off of his car, like the
Oh yeah.
priest, out of his car, and then puts some glasses,
It sits him in
like
the
some
bench.
yeah, sits him in a bench, and then puts some sunglasses on his head, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave you here, bye. And he just drives off, and I'm like, you just let homicide. Sounds guilty to me. I mean, it's not his fault because like the priest just had a heart attack and didn't take
Yeah.
his pills because he
But it's
lost
like
them.
remember like this is the early 90s. Like this film was like done in 1991. And the guy is driving a priest through Rome, and he stops by these 2 transsexual prostitutes
Yeah.
with the priest in his car, which I thought is like, oh my God, this is genius. This is
No,
pure
that
genius.
was very funny. That was very funny because priests and the whole church are very conservative in terms of gender expression in general. So,
Yeah.
and that's not like just the 90s. I mean, it's still today. I mean, come on, just this year the Pope
Yeah,
blessed like same-sex marriages. So
yeah.
imagine in 1991, it's not like we
In
have grown
Rome.
so yeah, in Rome, but like we still have a lot to go. Yeah, 1991, just seeing that the priest was really shocked, like what? Profanity, profanity. I found the story, the Italian story, I mean the Rome cab ride, very funny. Probably the most funny of them all.
Oh yeah.
And the least one I've liked was the Helsinki one because
Oh, that's just Northern Europeans for you, isn't it? Like the heavy story, like of Northern Europeans.
no, I just thought it was very short and nothing like very funny happened.
So I saw this film like years ago, not knowing much of stuff. So like nowadays, with much more knowledge, like with the Paris story for me when it starts, and there's the little interaction with the cab driver, because the cab driver is actually from Ivory Coast, and he's taking these two gentlemen. I think they're from Cameroon, I think. And they are just making fun of him because he's a cab driver, black cab driver, and these
Yeah.
two guys are like politicians or whatever, and they're just making fun of him. But it's like,
But it's not like a race discourse, because like the two gentlemen that are like at the back seat, they're also black.
yeah, yeah. But it's
So
like
it's
when
not like but I felt like it was like a class discrimination. It was
it
literally
is,
okay.
but it is also a race discourse. When I saw that, when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh my God, if Fanon was alive to watch this, because one of his series that was actually his doctorate degree that was rejected at the time by the Academy, and he had to do another project, but he still released it as a book, which is called,
Well done for him. I mean,
yeah,
God,
which is
like
something like dark skin, white masks. I think that would be like the English name of it. It's a tremendous book because it's where he talks about the Africans that go into France, and all of a sudden they buy into the white culture, you know?
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
So, like for Fanon, what happens in that cab is like the two politicians, they're not black, they're actually white.
Exactly. Okay, I can see it. Yeah.
That's his argument with this theory, which was like this was a big thing when it came out in the 50s, and it kind of helped create the idea of Africans as an identity.
Why was it rejected as a PhD thesis? Because it was like too controversial for the
Yeah, of
50s?
course, it was too
Yeah, no,
controversial.
okay,
The
yeah.
thing is, it's a great book to read because you can see like the irony written in it. Because when he got rejected, he rewrote it a little bit, so he got really ironic and really aggressive towards the Academy in this book. But it's an amazing book to read. But it's like I don't know if Jim Jarmusch read or not the book, but the ideas are there. These ideas are
No,
there.
now that you explain that to me, makes super sense. Like the beginning of like that discrimination that it's happening in the beginning
Yeah,
from those two men. I thought it was like just a class thing because those were like rich guys and they were like carrying like this box with super
yeah,
fancy stuff, and then you know they were just making fun of him for being
yeah.
at the
A cab
lower
driver.
position.
Yeah,
Yeah, a cab driver. But I thought it was so fun when he just said, "Get out of my cab."
yeah,
Just
yeah.
get out and left them in it was like a neighborhood, but not, I mean, it
It's a
sounded,
rundown neighborhood, wasn't it?
yeah. And I was like, well, damn, that was a good move putting these two very I think they were like rich guys,
Yeah.
just in a very random neighborhood. I thought it was very
And they were
funny.
afraid. They're like, "Well, what you gonna do here?" And and I thought genius that the next person that he picks up, it's a blind woman.
Yes.
That thing for me was genius because it brings all different stuff, isn't it? Like in power relationships, and he even says to her, what color am I? Where am I from? And like stuff like that to her. And she says something I think,
She's very sassy.
yeah. And when he says to her like do all blind people wear sunglasses? And she's like, I don't know, I never saw a blind person.
No, she's very sassy. She's very sarcastic as well,
Yeah.
and very aware, very self-aware. And it's like
Yeah.
just no bullshit. Just like I don't know, I'm blind. How like have I saw? I don't know, I'm blind. It's
Yeah.
just, and I love that self-awareness.
Oh yeah. And the thing that
Um,
she says, like going to the theaters and she feels the film and she feels the music and stuff like that. And
yeah, I really liked that. I really
yeah,
liked that part. Like a movie is not to be seen, is to be felt.
yeah. And
Um,
the love making also when she
Yeah,
explains.
the lovemaking as well when she says that, which makes him a little bit uncomfortable. He's like, so this girl is very profound. I'm not gonna like
Yeah.
just say, get out of my cab now. He's also
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Like the thing is, he's mesmerized by her, but
Yeah.
he's also a bit uncomfortable because although she can't see, which definitely in his eyes is like a disadvantage in
Yeah.
the societal norm makes people who have some sort of disability, physical disability, like as a disadvantage, which, social programs really should change that. But he also is mesmerized by the fact she's not carrying herself as a
Yeah.
PT woman.
Hmm.
She's very confident, she's very sensual, and she knows it. She knows it as
Oh
well.
yeah.
And he's a bit intimidated by her, which I really loved their interaction. And I especially loved at the end when he drops her, right? And she's like, you know, going like on her
Yeah.
life, and he just starts driving and
And there's an accident.
bumps, yeah, has an accident, bumps into a car, and then they start fighting, and it's about, don't you see where you're going?
Yeah.
And it's like just a whole pun on the fact on like seeing stuff,
Yeah.
and the girl is just like there, yeah, I don't see, and just
And-
going on.
yeah.
Found that so funny.
The
Um,
Paris scene, I think it was very well done. The New York scene, what makes me most like, especially because most people will, if people want to go and see the film, one of the things that you'll notice is that like in 1991, okay, this is a low budget film and everything, but nowadays, especially if you see a lot of films, you look at that cast and you'll be like, oh my God, this is full of superstars. But at the time they
yeah.
weren't. It's like the taxi from New York. Like the very well-known actors nowadays. Giancarlo Esposito came to really prominence as Gus in Breaking Bad. And you have like a very different type of character that he does. And what I like in the New York story is the social commentary on it. It's because you have the
Yeah.
East German guy coming from the communist Germany that still existed at the time.
The wall was still
Yeah,
up.
the wall was still up, and he can't drive because it's automatic shifts. He's the only one that stops to get no. There's another guy that stops because like Giancarlo Esposito is a black man at night asking for a cab. No one stops to pick him up. This is the
So many
90s.
cabs. Like I forgot how New York had
Yeah,
so
so
many
many
cabs.
cabs. Yeah,
Like once again, like it was definitely a race commentary there. Like the way that no cab was stopping to pick this man up.
yeah,
I was like, this is just okay, I see it. Like
yeah.
you're not gonna stop because he's black and asking for a cab ride. I mean, do you want the money or not?
Yeah,
Isn't this your job? Like
even he
stop the
grabs the money
car.
and he's showing
Yeah,
like, I
he
have
even
the
shows
money.
I
I
have
have the
money.
money.
Like I'm not going to just on a free ride,
Yeah, I
you
have money.
see.
Just like,
Um,
and the guy stops. There's a guy that stops and he's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going for Brooklyn." And the guy like, "No," and he shuts up because this is the early '90s and New York was a very crime-ridden city, and Brooklyn was really
yeah.
a big problem at the time. But then the guy that stops is this Eastern German guy that has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't know the city. And it's like, it's also a social commentary because you can even see this happening here in Portugal. Like people come into the country and in like, when you want to work or anything, you only given a certain amount of options in for you to work, like especially if you come from like a poor class or a working class, like you can only do construction, you can do taxis, you can do uh, like some work in shops, especially if it's your own culture running those shops, because you kind of get pushed away for, like, you can do nursery or you can do cleaning or you can, it's all these like these type of jobs. And this guy is German. He doesn't
That's why you
really
see
know.
such a big like immigrant population working in just some sort of jobs. I
Yeah,
mean, like nowadays, taxi, we don't drive that as many taxis. We don't, I mean, you still see a lot of taxis, but nowadays it's like the Uber industry
yeah,
actually taking over, and you can see a lot of like an immigrant class
yeah.
working on Uber, cleaning services, and also like hairdressers and also like nail salons,
Yeah,
which were also, especially like in America with the Vietnam War,
yeah.
they really like start growing the nail salon business with the Vietnamese women who
Hmm.
were immigrating to the States, and this also happens here, especially with Brazilian women opening hairdressers, and sometimes these hairdressers, they're not paid right. They are just they don't have like contracts. It's a very sketchy business, and it's just in these types of jobs, what I gather from what I know, which is not much, but from what I know, there is an exploitation of these
Oh
communities
yeah,
that are
sure.
just coming to this country to have a work and probably get a better life, and they are just exploited in these businesses because they are not allowed to work in other stuff, probably other types of jobs.
But you see that a lot in New York, like even if you go further down the decade, even in Seinfeld episodes, they take a lot of taxis, and you always see like the taxi is always ridden by some like someone from the Middle East. It ranges from Iraq to India to Nepal. It's
Yeah.
always a foreigner, but it is a social commentary there. There is, because all of a sudden these two guys, they kind of form a bond, isn't it? Because Giancarlo Esposito is like, oh, let me drive. You don't know how to drive. Let me drive.
Yeah, no, but like, but it's true. He doesn't know how to drive.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
And the guy
sorry, I'm
is
not
like,
gonna
I'll
take
still
a
pay
ride.
you, but I'll drive.
But it's awful, like the way he's driving. Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Doesn't he like get that? That's not how you're supposed to drive.
Yeah,
Like the
it's
way he's
really
just like
weird.
bum,
Just
just
starting and stopping and stuff like
starting and
that.
stopping. I'm like, I would like my head would hurt. I would start being sick in my stomach. Like I like what? That's
Yeah.
not driving. Come on.
But
Um,
it's an awesome social commentary also, because like
but
he's
he's
black.
so
He
naive
doesn't.
and so genuine, and he's
Yeah,
like, I don't know, I think that's how you're supposed to drive. He's so lost, and
yeah,
I related to that, that feeling of I don't know this country, I don't know, I need this job, and the way he's like, please, please, I need this job, like, come on,
yeah.
take this cab with me. Yeah, in terms of social commentary, that part of the movie, that episode was really,
It was
yeah, was
really strong, because you
yeah.
have two outsiders, two society outsiders helping each other, isn't it?
You know what's funny? Just make this a little bit lighter is when he finds his stepsister,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And he kind of
Angela. I think it's
yeah,
Angela, right?
Angela, and he
Angela.
kidnaps her, isn't it?
Yeah, kidnaps her, and she is going on him. And
Yeah,
I love how she's always like, shut
yeah.
up. Like
Shut the fuck up.
and he's like, you always have to have the last word. And
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, I do. And I was like, yes, you do. Like, I just love the way that she would always answer him back. I loved it. I loved it.
Oh yeah, and
That's the
with that
energy I
very New
sometimes
York
want to have.
accent, with the open A. Oh fuck yeah!
Oh,
Everything
yes,
becomes
yeah.
an A. Fuck yeah!
Their relation was very aggressive. Like
Oh
in,
yeah,
I was, if like if I was just the guy, the Eastern German guy, I would be like, what is happening? Is this family? And I was like, yeah, sometimes families are like that.
but you
Sometimes you can only be as aggressive as that with family members because
but he does
that's
a
the, yeah.
comment in the end, doesn't, like, such a beautiful family.
Yeah, such a beautiful family. That's true. Yeah, he does some comment like that. Yeah.
Because at the time, like going back at the time, you could probably imagine that he does, like the Eastern German guy doesn't have family. Like that's a little bit that's known of him. And being East German and coming from that country, you could probably like imagine that his entire family was either killed or something like that some reasons, or he lost his family because of the regime. And he sees that like he's like such a beautiful family. I was laughing because it's like, well, yeah, if you don't have a family, all types of family will seem beautiful to you. So it was a funny commentary. The story that I didn't like so much was the LA story.
The first one.
Yeah. The LA story, I think, was a bit of a cheese out. You have a girl driving a taxi and she smokes a lot. And this is actually very funny to see nowadays because there is actually a gross out element on it. Because, yeah, people in those years, they smoked a lot inside the cars and they
Yeah.
put out the cigarettes in the dashboard and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, the way that we behave with with smoking habits has
Yeah,
changed a
a
lot.
lot.
So watching that, I wasn't necessarily weirded out, but I was just thinking about, damn, that cab must smell.
Oh, yeah.
Yikes. And then when just okay, we'll go back to the LA story, but in the Rome story,
Yeah.
when the cab driver is like smoking and the priest is like, "Oh,
Oh,
you
coughing.
coughing." But then he points to the car, like saying to the signal, saying
Yeah,
there
no
was like a
smoking.
no smoking, like a no smoking signal inside the vehicle, and the guy, the cab driver, is like, "Oh yeah, this," and instead of putting out the cigarette, he throws out
The signal.
this, yeah, and I'm like, and the face that the priest does, it's so funny because the priest literally said, "Oh, no smoking in the vehicle," for him to stop smoking, not to
Yeah.
just throw.
But he was driving like in the wrong, like because there's a beautiful thing that he says because Rome is full of like one-way streets, isn't it? Senso unico, it came up,
Mm,
and he says
I don't
something
know. I've
really.
never been to Rome, but
But
when I
like
go,
in the film
yeah.
itself, you see there's lots of signs saying like it's a one-way street,
Okay,
and he
I didn't know
keeps
this.
and he keeps driving against the weight of the street. So
Listen, that's an awful cab driver.
yeah,
Like
he's
what?
breaking the law all the time. But he says something really beautiful when he kind of does like this metaphor about life and about the one-way street and being a one-way life and a one-way destiny kind of thing, which I find like, oh man, he's just a poet. He's such a poet. And seeing it, I really think, and I didn't find anything that tells you this because there was like no making offs at the time. But I do really think that in the Rome story, like the cab driver Robert Badigny had free will to say whatever the hell he wanted because the speech is so him. Like if you see films written by him and everything, the everything that he says is so him, and the comedy. And when he's saying like he wants to confess, and all of a sudden he's saying like that that he used to make love with vegetables and then with a sheep and then with his sister-in-law and and the
He's
priest
one
is
of the
like
best characters
yeah,
because of his rawness, you know,
yeah.
like
He's so wrong in everything. And he says like he always tells like like it was an accident. Like the sheep who started looking at him and stuff, and all of a sudden he's on top of her. Like it was an accident.
and guys, like think about how he's telling this while
Yeah.
driving a
While
priest,
driving.
you know. While driving a priest, you
Yeah.
know, like confessing as he was in the church. And then the priest dies,
Yeah.
okay? He has
The
a heart
priest
attack.
dies. Yeah. It was so
So the
funny.
last confession that the priest heard was that.
Yeah. But going back to the LA story, I didn't really like the LA story because it was like it was a bit of cheese out. Like she gets like this woman, the woman is a casting director, and like Winona Ryder is really raw, isn't it? She's trying to be really raw, but Winona Ryder is very manlish, isn't she? It's like she wants to be a
I don't think
mechanic,
that
and
I
she wants,
don't, yeah, but you know what? I didn't like that character. I mean, I might like the character. I just didn't like how Winona Ryder played it. I don't
Because
know.
I think it looked like she was very uncomfortable and she was very nervous and she was always very nervous
Yeah,
and
it didn't like a good fit for her.
yeah, and because she smoked a lot, so she shouldn't be that nervous anyway. When the other woman is like, "Oh, I want to cast you in this film. I want you to try out for the film," and she's like, "Nah, don't want it. My life is going okay and everything. I have everything sorted out." And the other's like, "Oh God, you stupid! Like everyone wants to be in the movies, and like I'm not."
Which
And
fair. I mean, fair. You don't
yeah,
want to be in the movies. I mean, you know, she said what her life goals were. She's now a cab driver, but she wants to be a mechanic, and some time down the road she wants to, no pun intended, but like sometime down the road she wants to find a guy and
yeah,
marry and have a lot
Mary,
of boys. Okay,
yeah,
maybe one girl, but like a
yeah.
lot of boys.
But like she was dirty, isn't she? Has like a forehead
She's
was a little bit dirty and
Yeah, I mean,
it
she
was
just doesn't really
really
care.
yeah, but it was really forced. Like it was really, really
Oh
forced.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
even the outfit and even the way she was like standing by the telephone when
Oh
she was
yeah.
making that call in the beginning. It was all very forced.
But the Helsinki one, I think, like it just fits like being a Northern European at night, drunk. The guy just lost his job, and everyone's going through some tragedy, and everyone is sharing tragedy. But there's a shot that I saw, like I was like, oh man, this is pure Jim Jarmusch, and this is art. Which is when the cab driver said, telling the story of how his kid died, young kid died, like just being born and died, and you have this shot of everyone in the car, like the passengers, they are crying, and the guy that passed out is actually smiling. The guy that passed out before getting into the cab because the guy was so drunk he lost his job and everything. But there's this shot like because the guy's not listening to the story because he's sleeping, and the guy is sharing this tragedy, and all of a sudden you have the other guys crying and going, "Oh, this is so tragic, this is so sad," and the other guy's like, "Oh, you'll have more kids, I'm sure." But there's this shot, like it's just like a 5 second shot that the other guys are crying, and the guy that's passed out is actually sleeping on the shoulder of the other guy in the back, but he has like this huge smile in his face, and I was like,
I mean,
"Oh
he was
God."
not listening to the
Yeah.
story, so give him a break, okay?
Yeah, yeah, but it's
Uh,
like, oh, this is so Jim Jarmusch. This is really Jim Jarmusch. It's
yeah,
so
I'll take your
funny.
word for it because I'm not familiar with him, but
Yeah.
yeah, but that was a funny moment. Yeah, that was.
It was kind of cool. There's a few directors, especially indie directors, because we have said this like a little bit, especially on the horror episode, that especially with romantic comedies are always about middle class people, and especially most films are also about middle class people. But in the early 90s, there was a few directors. Actually started with Richard Linklater, with Slacker, that all of a sudden they started telling stories of the working class and the poor people. So, and Jim Jarmusch is one of these directors that also started telling stories about like the working class, about the poor people, and how people go about with their lives. And this was a bit of a shift in cinema. Anyways, this is all done in the independent filmmaking because the major films didn't really bought into this, but it was a nice shift because all of a sudden you have a big part of the population, right, in every country that actually can sit in a movie theater and and see a film that's like, oh, they can identify with characters, they can identify with people. Like you had Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese,
Yeah.
but in Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese, the taxi driver is a psychopath.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, was he? But then I remembered the last scene. I was like, yeah,
yeah, he is a
he was.
psychopath. But like in these sorts of films, like working class people and poor people are not portrayed as psychopaths. They are portrayed as like they're heroes in in their own stories. They are struggling, but it's a thing of like saying like they're not much different from any other people. Like these five cab drivers, the five different cab drivers that you see, and this is all happens at the same time because it's something that Jim Jarmusch as a big thing on. And I also have a kind of interest in this, which is like what's happening in the world at the same time. Like we're recording
Yeah,
this podcast, other people are doing all these things are happening at the same time.
that's a
And
very interesting thought.
yeah,
It's a bit scary because the world
yeah,
is so big,
yeah,
and you are thinking about, oh yeah, we're here, you know, recording this episode, and war is happening,
yeah,
or hunger is still happening, or
yeah.
people are fighting, or other people are
And throwing down
probably,
governments and stuff like that.
yeah, like a lot
It's
of a
fun.
lot of stuff are happening. Maybe, like at this moment, maybe someone is probably like planning something very huge that is going to happen in a couple of days from here.
Yeah,
It's so interesting to think like all the different things that are happening at the same time.
yeah. It is.
But
It
it's
is
so
an
but
incredible
it's such
thought.
an abstract thought that
Yeah.
it's just a very interesting concept to think about. It's not necessarily something that I can even grasp like concretely about.
Oh yeah, and it is an interesting thought, and all of a sudden, all these ideas of how people connect to each other and how people go through the same spaces, like this idea was really present, like in the early 90s, even with the work of Paul Auster. Even like Paul Auster did a film, wrote a film called Smoke, and it was all about this concept of like one place and all of these stories coming together, like most likely as Cigarettes and Alcohol by Jim Jarmusch. And it's this interesting concept of everything that's happening at the same time.
Well, let me just add something to this whole
Yeah, yeah,
concept, because you think about what is happening at the same time. And I usually think about, this is gonna sound so weird, but like, sometimes I'm like holding a coin in my hand, and I'm thinking about the journey that this coin had.
oh yeah,
I'm thinking, is this the same coin that I've held 5 years ago? Or now I'm gonna give this coin to this cashier, and
yeah,
she's probably give it as change to some other customer. And then this customer is gonna buy a coffee, and the coffee shop is gonna have this coin and then give it as, I'm like started to think about the journey of like this object.
yeah,
Uh, how many hands it has been through, where has it been through, how dirty is it getting lost, is it going through the hands of someone that I know? I mean, it's so interesting to think about. Is it hanging out with other coins that I've had? I don't
yeah,
know. But I think about that a lot,
yeah.
which is weird, but like I do.
It's not weird. It's actually there's a field of study for that, you know.
Which one?
I don't
What
know
do you
how you
mean?
call it in English, but it's like anthropology of stuff. Basically, they study. I can give you after the episode, I'll give you a few people that have written on it. But basically, what
Do
they
it. Do
study,
it. I'll do
it's
my
this.
PhD on it. Like, do it.
It's
I'm
but
having a crisis with my PhD, so like, come on.
but it's basically that they study like how things move across space and how things like imagine this happens really. This is very simple. Like when you move to another country, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
You,
familiar with that. Yeah.
yeah. But you tend to take stuff with you because you don't have a reference to the country that you're going. But we're talking about stuff like I'm not talking about clothes and stuff. You do that, but you do that with cleaning products. You do that with stuff that you eat, and all of a sudden, all this stuff gets like moved around the world. Like there's a cool study like when how Brazilian people tend to use Brazilian cleaning products that they know when they are here in Portugal, which is normal because they don't have a reference here. And how things like during the pandemic, because a lot of people went back, and there's this anthropologist from the UNL studying this, and one of the things that she noticed was like when people had to go back because of the pandemic, have to go back to Brazil, they actually took the stuff with them. So all of a sudden, we're talking about immigration of people and stuff, but stuff gets immigrated also. They do immigrate.
Yeah.
They go around the world with all this.
Yeah,
Like
if you guys wanted to, we'll put it on the description below. It might be
yeah,
an interesting read for us.
there's a guy that it's called Apadurai, and it's good to read because Apadurai is not European. It's actually
Look at the shade. I
yeah,
love it.
because it's way different when you read European writers and non-European writers. Apadura is one of the main characters of that movement, of that field of studies.
But going back to Night on Earth, like these five stories were happening at the same time. And
Yeah,
we could see this because of the clock. Whenever
yeah,
we changed cities, we would have an introduction to the city by watching the clock. And it
yeah.
would be different times on the clock, but it was actually the same time because,
Mhm.
countries have
Time
different
differences,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, time difference. What do you think about the fact that the five stories were happening during the night, opposed to like during the day or during the afternoon or
That's the
morning
thing.
or
That's the thing I said about Jim Jarmusch, where he sees beauty where other people don't see it. I love the shot of the clocks, for instance, because when I was in London, I was working within this investment banking, and in the traders floors, you had like these 4 or 5 clocks with different times with the cities, just like we see in the film. So so that everyone knew what time was it in all the other countries, so they knew when the stock market opened and closed and stuff like that. The nighttime, if you read Jack Kerouac, if you read William S. Burroughs, if you read even Poe, Kafka, the nighttime is a character, and the solitude of the nighttime is very beautiful, and the lights of the nighttime are very beautiful. I'm a night person. I love driving around during the night. I think it's beautiful because everything is empty. I even sometimes take my camera with me and I take pictures or I record stuff because like during the nighttime you have this entire city working for you, like these traffic lights and everything is working, but there's no one there most of the time. So
Mhm.
you have publicity working, like panels and stuff changing, but there's no one there to see them. There is a beauty towards the nighttime. The
No, I think that's
nighttime.
very interesting when you say that because I know that the night is a source of creativity for a lot of artists, and it is not for me. I do not like the night time. I'm a very daylight person. So, whenever someone says to me, I love going like on night walks, I love going on night drives, I love, night. And I'm like, I'm a woman, you know?
Yeah, it's a bit
I'm
different.
afraid of it. Not to like go into this subject, but at the same time, I was like, I cannot relate to the beauty of it because, I have a source of fear of it,
Yeah.
that it's embedded in my history with nighttime. So it's like, the nighttime is also a time where people go out, get drunk, do a lot of profanity and illicit stuff. And it can be a very dark moment, because darkness can also hide stuff, and for instance, it can also make you more free because it's more private in the way, because it's like hidden. It's the nighttime. You're not so exposed to it. It's a different type of ambience. It's a different type of people, of energy. Um, Even though I'm not someone who likes it, I can see why it has a different effect on people, and especially creativity and vulnerability.
There are certain events like night or raining. Raining is very, very peculiar because some of the times you'll see this in films where rain plays an effect where like you only see raining when something bad's about to happen. You only see it like that. Like that's why Singing in the Rain is still one of the best films ever made because they're actually happy when it's raining, which is not a very common thing to see. And
They subverted the
yeah.
expectations on it.
But it's like nighttime has all that. Like nighttime is scary. Like nighttime is when the homicides happen. Nighttime is when rapes happen. Everything that's wrong with humanity happens during night. But like it's always also very, very creative. I think it depends on what type of person you are, kind of thing. I'm not defending alcohol because I don't really drink. I used to, but I don't drink anymore. But it's like nighttime, you go out, you have a drink, and alcohol kind of starts destroying walls, doesn't it? And people sometimes they become more of them, like they'll relax and they'll talk a little bit more, and they'll be like more open towards the other person. Like during daytime, people are more closed on themselves, and it's a bit more difficult to actually have a conversation, unless the other person really, really wants to have a talk about something. It's very difficult to come up and speak about stuff. When you read about like writers and philosophers that got together to debate stuff, it was always during nighttime. It's not like they had day jobs or something that didn't allow them to do it, but it does have another sense of creativity. It's very beautiful, like the moon and everything. Like one of the most beautiful songs by REM is Night Swimming. And you listen to that song, it's a piano song, and you listen to that song and all about night swimming and all about the moon and all about the night. And all of us, it makes sense for people that like the night. It makes sense, that entire narrative about nighttime.
Listen, I love the moon. I love the stars. I really do. And I love gazing at the night sky. I love finding stars in the city. I love looking up and just because of the city lights, which
Yeah,
sometimes like in the city we can't see stars.
yeah.
And I love sometimes just straight up looking up and trying to find stars. And eventually I do sometimes find a lot of them. And I love playing those types of games with myself, you know, to feel closer to the nighttime. But at the same time, it's like I'm not someone who feels the most. I do think a lot during the night,
Yeah.
but and I totally understand what you were saying. Yeah. And I feel like this movie, Night on Earth, it played during the night because maybe we could see a more human connection happening with the characters. Because if you think about it, like, I don't know about you, but I don't trust taxi drivers. I know, once again, I'm a woman. I don't trust taxi drivers and not even like Uber drivers or stuff like that because that's the way I am. But you don't think that these people that are driving you to somewhere, to your home or someplace, are like, I'm going to create a human connection with this person. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like, you don't think about it. You don't see, but I feel like it's such a movie thing to happen, to
Yeah.
have like a conversation with someone who is driving you. Because if I was being drove by someone, I would be like, why is this person asking me stuff? No, I'm gonna pretend like I'm speaking on my phone, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think that in real, but maybe during the night that happens. I don't know. Like maybe people, like their walls go down and they can like
It's
be more
going back
open and
to something that you said about going to the cinema. It's about a shared moment, isn't it? You either want to share a moment or you don't, which is fine either way. For me, there's a practical sense for it to be at night because during the night you have less options, less public transportation options. So you kind of have to get a cab or a taxi, but trips, they tend to be longer because of this, because you probably went somewhere, but or you arrived at the airport like the LA story, or you went somewhere and now you need to go home, and probably you're on another side of the city, but the only transportation available is taxis, or taxi. Like nowadays you have Uber, but at the day you had taxis. So during the nighttime, the trips will be longer. So there's a practical sense to it in the film. It makes sense because during the day, sometimes you are on your lunch, you go from point A to point B, you do like 600 meters, or like, which is about 500 yards of a journey, something like that. During the day, it's very difficult for you to be like half an hour inside the taxi unless there's traffic. Okay, if you went out at night, and if you are in Lisbon downtown, for you to go home at 2 3 a.m., you don't have really great options, do you? Like
yeah, now the subways are closed. You have some buses, but
you have
like
some buses, but it's
yeah, but the
like,
buses are like a very restrict route. It's
yeah.
not like the standard from during the
So
day.
in order to go back home, you actually need to use a taxi driver. Nowadays, you need or Uber or whatever, but you will have that longer trip. For me, it works both ways. For like in the film, you have the practical reason, as it has to be during the night, so you have a long trips. And also, people are more open up to shared moments. Like Imagine the LA story. She didn't really care about the cab driver up to the point where she's like, I can use her.
Yeah.
I need someone and I can use her. Like the New York scene, you have two outsiders from society that they actually get along from the get-go. And actually the other guy sees like the German guy sees Giancarlo Esposito kidnapping someone, and he's like sitting in his car going like, oh, this is normal. Like
Yeah,
grabbing a
you know
woman.
what? That's true. That's true. I was like,
It's like this, like he's grabbing. It's his sister-in-law or whatever, but you don't know that. Like he
but
could be
he doesn't
grabbing.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
could
I
be
feel
grabbing
like it's
someone
just
else.
in the character. He's
Yeah,
like so lost that
oh,
he
yeah.
doesn't
He doesn't
really.
care. Like then you have like in Rome, the priest is the only one that he doesn't want to share a moment. He's like, "Don't talk to me." He's like, "Oh, but I need to confess," because they start the trip. They are really quiet, and all of a sudden, because Robert Bedini is going like in wrong directions and not and passing through red lights and stuff. And he's like, oh, I need to confess. And the guy like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
You can't confess
Yeah,
in a
and
cab
not
driver. You
easily.
need,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to go to a church. And the guy is like, don't talk to me. Like, stop this. And he's like, and he just starts confessing. And the priest is starting having an heart attack. And you see him going through
No,
his
like
heart
really,
attack.
the
Yeah.
Rome episode
Oh,
is
that's the
so
film.
funny. Like it's really funny. It's the second last
Yeah.
of
And
the
and
5 stories.
And like the Paris one, the guy doesn't want, the cab driver really doesn't want to connect with anyone because he's being bullied by these two first guys that he checks out. And then comes the blind woman and he tries to connect with her, but she's like giving like straight answers, like really cutting the conversation. And in the Helsinki one, which is funny because the Helsinki one is it's Northern Europeans, and Northern Europeans are well known for being cold persons and not
Yeah,
connecting to
very
anyone,
distant and
very
yeah.
distant, and they have the biggest shared experience, a shared moment in the
That is
film.
true. That's a
It's
great
it's in
observation,
there.
yeah.
I thought that was like a pure moment of genius.
Have you ever had a shared moment with a cab driver?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, especially when I was living in Lisbon. I used to get off work at 11:30, work in a hotel, and we went to the bar of the hotel, and we used to get hammered and get out of the hotel at like 1:30. So there was no much of an option for
Okay,
me to go home.
wildlife. I didn't know that
Yeah. Oh,
about
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Well, the more you know.
Uh, yeah. So I had to walk or either get a taxi. Sometimes I took a taxi because I was too hammered to walk about 1.5 mile to my house. And yeah, just a few of share moments, a few nice stories. I like random stories with random people.
I
I
love
like
random
those.
stories with random people, and I have them.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I don't have them with cab drivers, but I do have random stories with random people that I just met for like a couple of hours in that moment,
Yeah.
talked, shared a lot. And I have one in particular that I'm thinking of, and that I met like last year. This man from the States, he was like visiting Portugal by himself, and we just started talking. I was in my lunch break from work. It was probably one of the most deep moments that I've had with someone. And it's like I'm never going to see this man again and he's never going to see me. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that I like this moment so much. It's because you are not going to see this person anymore. So it's like you kind of open up and then you just close up. Sometimes people just want to open up, and that's why sometimes it's easier to just open yourself up to a stranger, and it's easier to just talk to a stranger because the end of the day, like you don't really care for that stranger. He's gonna know something about you, but he's still a stranger, and you're not
Yeah.
gonna feel compelled to like have shame of what you said or whatever. It's like you're never gonna talk again,
Yeah.
you know? Or you open up to a friend or someone that you know, it's a bit different because this person knows you and you will hang out with this person and you sometimes fear the judgment and how will affect the relation, and
Oh, yeah.
it's different. It's different. It's a different feeling, and I definitely think we should have more stranger on stranger moments.
Yeah. I
Uh,
do love those random moments and random people, and you sometimes have these random stories that you all of a sudden come aware of, and if they are true or not, it doesn't really care.
Yeah,
It's just
sometimes you
like the
can just
importance.
pretend to be another person just for the
Yeah,
sake of the moment and just like, okay, I'm gonna pretend I have another name, I have a different story, I'm gonna like talk to this person and just pretend. I'm not gonna see them again. And it's like, yes, you're lying, but at the same time, it's like, who cares? This person, you don't have any way of confirming that this person is saying the truth to you, you know?
yeah.
And it can be a fun sociological experience, you
Oh
know?
yeah, I have loads of stories that I remember, like from stranger, like from random people, and some are really awesome stories, some are really sad, some really makes you think about life and how we see stuff. One of the most awkward stories I have, because I don't know how to deal with compliments. I never knew.
What?
Yeah, I don't know how to deal with compliments.
Have I ever
Um,
complimented you? Because I don't know, I've never
I think
like
I don't know.
realized the awkwardness of it.
Oh yeah, I'm really, really awkward with it. Which is
That's
weird because
funny. I'm
oh
gonna test that. I'm gonna test that.
yeah, I was in a supermarket one day, and this was like years ago. It's about what, 10 years ago? Probably like 10 years ago. And I was doing some shopping and stuff like normal, and all of a sudden, this old lady comes to me out of the blue, and she says, "Can I say something to you?" And I was like, first of all, that's a weird intro
Yeah, that's a
into a
weird
conversation.
intro.
That's a weird intro into a conversation. And I was like a little bit baffled and said, "Yeah, I guess so." And she's like, "You are really, really beautiful man." And I
Okay,
was
flirt.
I was
Okay.
frozen, It's like there was nothing flirty about it. Like the woman was about 60 or 70. But
Oh, okay.
she
Oh, well, still flirty,
she saw
still.
my reaction, because I was shocked.
Yeah, I
And
feel like men don't hear compliments enough.
yeah, and I was
I
like,
mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, Bruno. If a man that was like 60, 70 years, a man came
"Oh,
to
you have to be
me,
a weirdo." Yeah.
I mean, I would be like, ew.
You gross.
But ew, gross. Like no, stop. But why is it okay if like this lady went up to you and said it? Why does it feel more genuine coming from like opposite gender, you know?
It's a power thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
He
we are
also
not
did.
saying that women cannot sexual harass
Oh yeah,
men,
of
but we
course.
are saying that the power dynamic of
It's
a
very
older woman to
different.
do that, or even to just compliment, it's a bit different. But
Yeah.
like, tell me how you felt. Like you felt weird
I was
about it.
completely frozen to the bone. I was like really, really frozen, because I didn't know how to react. I was
You were
like,
like, I
"What?"
cry myself to sleep because I feel I'm so ugly.
Well, yeah, kind of, because to hear someone saying that, like, as straight and direct at you, it defies everything that you kind of unconsciously believe, everything that is part of your identity. It's really, really weird. So that's why I was like, I didn't even said anything to her, and then she turns away and goes.
You didn't even say thank you.
No, I didn't, because I didn't know how to react to it. I was like, oh, I was in shock. I was in pure shock. That's how
But I also
you.
feel like a lot of men don't know how to accept like compliments about their beauty
Oh
because
yeah.
they're not used to like whenever I compliment a man, like a friend or something that's a man, there's like this shock, uh, like that I detect, but I feel sometimes that we should compliment boys a lot. Like I don't know, it's why should you feel so weird if I say that you look good today or something like that? Like I don't know, I feel like compliments about physical appearance have been so important and induced into a woman's identity, and especially since she's a little girl up until she's a young woman. And then when she grows older, it's like you lose your value because you lose your physical attractiveness. So, just because it's such a focus on women, suddenly we left men kind of like out of it.
Yeah.
Especially when they're growing up. You have like a couple of men who are just very gorgeous boys since they are kids, and all the girls love them in classes, and they're Usually they become fuckboys in high school, but you know, a lot of men don't feel that. And I was just thinking about how sometimes I compliment my friends. There are boys and they get super awkward about it. It's like, it's okay. Like you can say just thank you. I
It
just
is.
said, yeah, I just said you looked good. Like you can just say thank you.
Well, it's a random thing to hear because most men won't think about themselves like that. Or
Yeah, but imagine whenever someone compliments my physical appearance, I get super like done with it. Like I don't care. I don't want to hear it. Like compliment other stuff about me, you know?
yeah.
Like because like women are actually exhausted. I'm exhausted. Like I know I look good. Like move on. Like say another thing. Like compliment me on something that I'm not expecting, you know?
I know that you
Just
never saw a picture of us, but what Miha is saying is there's actually a reason for it because she's like the Eastern European, blonde,
okay, you know what? We're
blue
not gonna go there.
eyes.
We're not gonna we're not gonna go there. Okay, this is gonna get cut out of the episode.
Oh no, I'm
Listen,
leaving
this
this.
whole you know this whole segment has to be shortened because
This is why she's like, oh, I'm so fed up that people say that I'm pretty, I know, and everything.
that is that is a lie. Listen, that is a lie. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I was saying in terms of gender. It's like a man is like used to be complimented on his strength and intelligence, but then
Yeah.
like women are really used to getting compliment on their sexual appeal and like physical attractiveness, and it's like we should like kind of compliment people on everything, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes a woman is just kind of like done with hearing the only value she kind of has it's on her physical appearance. Maybe I want to be, and this is something very interesting in terms of the of Night on Earth, because every conversation that's happening during these stories happen not face to face, you know.
Yeah.
And so you are just connecting to people and not necessarily to their physical, like you see them, like they have their people, like you can see them, the back of them, or even through the mirror.
Yeah.
But
They're not
it's not
facing
like
each
you're
other.
having a face-to-face
Yeah.
conversation. It's you are more focused on hearing them, especially because the driver needs to be focused on driving, and the other person that it's sitting at the back, the passenger, it's actually just seeing the back of the driver. So you are really focused on hearing the person and
Oh,
meeting
yeah.
them. And
Which
yeah,
that's a really good take on the film because it does change conversation when you're not facing each other. I once saw an interview with Tom York, which was one of the most amazing interviews I saw with someone where he really opened up about his mental issue problems and stuff. But the entire interview, he was sitting back to back with the journalist. So during the entire
okay.
interview, they never looked at each other, which was really, really awesome to see.
Anyway, guys, if you haven't watched Night on Earth, go and watch it. Come on. It's fun. It's fun. It has some fun takes. Like I said in the beginning, go and buy us a coffee as a show of support, if you want to, of course. And send us like your comments and messages via Instagram or via our email. It's going to be on the description below the episode.
Yes, do
Okay.
so that we have like we can probably start episodes with all comments and questions if you have them. And actually, Miha has put 2 questions up during this episode, and that would be nice to see some replies.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, this is all about building community and having a great time watching movies because
And
movies are
talking
cool.
about lives through the films, isn't it?
Yeah, and movies are cool. You see how deep I am?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, we're not gonna like just stretch the outro. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for giving us a listen. Even like a rating on Spotify has been amazing. Thank you so much. And we will see you next episode.
See you guys.
Bye.
Have fun.